Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Friday webinar series hosted with the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. I'm Osyrus Bolly, Racial Equity Coordinator with the Arkansas Public Policy, and we're back this Friday afternoon just to really do a debrief about this 2025 Arkansas legislative session. So for those of y'all who follow us with Citizens First Congress, we had a very active legislative session with our partners and our coalition members, advocating for and against different bills that pertain to our priorities and our platform. And so today we have a great guest with us. We got Aliah from 4AR People here to join us because I really felt like we needed to find somebody who had really been active during the legislative session. And so Aliah, I first caught wind of the work that she was doing through her weekly, basically video logs about the legislative session. And I definitely enjoyed watching that series on YouTube. So I thought, why not bring her on to the Arkansas Public Policy Panel's webinar series so we can discuss some of the bills, but also learn more about 4AR People as well. So Aliah, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, it's Memorial Day weekend coming up. So, we looking forward to a little chill downtime. But yeah, other than that, I'm great. Um, First off, I just wanted people to kind of know who you are and to know more about who 4AR People, what that organization is all about, and how y'all got started.
Yes, so I'm Aliah Rowe. I am the digital media director for 4AR People. I've been with 4AR People for about almost 3 years now. It's been really fun. What I mainly do is like the videos, the TikToks. I do all the social media stuff, or most of the social media stuff. But we have a team of about 3 people, so it's a lot for three. But 4AR People is basically, we believe in two main things. So we believe in good governance, and education. And so our job is kind of to educate people on like what's happening in the state of Arkansas, how it directly affects them. We're big on connecting the dots. And then it's also that good governance part where we're trying to hold people accountable for doing bad things in the state of Arkansas, especially during times like legislative session. And so 4AR People is just an organization intended to educate Arkansas people on what's going on and make sure that everybody knows how their state is working for them or working against them. And, a lot of times it's the latter. And so we want to make sure we're holding those people accountable as well.
Definitely, yeah. And like you mentioned, what I'm saying, a lot of times during the legislative session, it would be great to be playing the offense, what I'm saying, and supporting a lot of, just great legislation and policy that would really improve the quality of life of all our candidates. But a lot of times we find ourselves playing defense. And I think that's one of the main things that we ended up doing in 2025. And so I've been following 4AR People, I probably say about maybe 4 years, maybe 5, but I know 4 for sure. And I'm really just a big fan of you personally, but the organization because of the way that y'all break down the legislation. And I talk about it a lot of times, a lot of times it gets a little too wordy. Saying a lot of the language it can be misinterpreted and it's confusing. And the way that y'all do it is, you break it down very simply for the people, and so people can have a better understanding. Because sometimes these bills have confusing titles, and you don't know the real intention of them until you start digging when you have time through all the pages. So tell me, like, what's your process when you have to when you're going to be doing your weekly series or daily, it seems like, talking about these bills? What's your process for like breaking down these bills?
Yes. So something I feel like we have to remember is that like the average voter is like not like us, they're not keeping up with it. They're not reading these very hard to understand bills, they're not used to that. And so my process kind of for breaking down bills, I like to think I'm the average voter, but I kind of am not, right? And so I'm
Yeah.
like I like to think of it as like I'm talking to my friends or I'm talking to my family. Because like the language, like you said, is hard to understand, right? And it's like if they can't understand it, how are they supposed to know what to vote on when it comes election time? You know? And so I think making it breaking it down to where the average person would understand, like trying to explain it like to a middle schooler or something, like someone who is not tuned in and tapped in, but like giving them something to care about is another big thing too. It's like making them realize how this actually does affect their everyday lives, because you don't really see it on maybe a micro level. Sometimes you have to like broaden it and be like, hey, actually, this does affect this down the line for
Yeah.
you, if that makes sense. It's all about like making it easily digestible, especially when it comes to like videos and stuff, because you have a short time to do it. And so it's like you got to pull out the most important stuff, make it easily digestible, and make it so someone will care about it. It's kind of my process.
No doubt, no, and you definitely do a good job of that. Like I say, a lot of times I'm not gonna lie about it. I would go to y'all and like get the get the short version of what this bill is supposed to do. Listen to what you would talk about. Listen to some of the things that y'all would tweet out there, even on Blue Sky, and then I would kind of like use that as part of my research when it was talking about a lot of things that I would just like, look, I got a limited amount of time to get the understanding of this and to be able to transfer this to something that people could talk about or vote on or prioritize. So, in the midst of saying that, one of the major themes of this legislative session, not a great thing, but one of the major themes was the direct democracy bills. And I've kind of stopped using direct democracy because I'm like, I think it just off the top, people not really paying attention sometimes when I say that. So I just start telling people, hey, this whole petition process, the ballot measure process, uh, relating to them in ways where we talk about, hey, well, when you sign a petition for medical marijuana, that's what helped pass. And when we raised the minimum wage, or when you voted for or against the casinos, this is the ballot initiative process, and we're talking about direct democracy. So my question to you is, what efforts did you see were made to restrict the citizen-led ballot initiatives during this 2025 session? And what are we going to do to try to protect the ballot initiative process here in Arkansas?
Yes. So direct democracy has been a big thing for us. There's a little context to this whole battle, though. As you know at the panel, and as many of you know watching, there were a lot of ballot initiatives last cycle being circulated around to get on the ballot, and a lot of them were actually like successful, and then the government kind of worked in tandem to kind of restrict those. And so this go around, the restriction of the direct democracy was kind of in direct response to the success of certain ballot initiatives. And us at 4AR people, we were signed on to one. I know the panel was as well. And so a lot of them kind of aimed at the signature collection portion. Because if you don't know how the ballot initiative process works, you have to get a certain amount of signatures, which is like 10% of the previous gubernatorial election, the amount of people who voted in that. And then you also have to get a certain percent, like for 50 counties, I believe. And so it's incredibly hard and it's very time consuming. And a lot of times people only have like a few months to get over 90,000 signatures, which is not easy. And so a lot of these, specifically from Senator Kim Hammer, kind of aimed to put some sort of restrictions on the ability to collect signatures. A couple of those being like validating IDs, or warning them of petition fraud, or making sure they read the whole ballot title. Like things that are very time consuming that we don't realize are time consuming. And so if you have to do that for each individual person, it's kind of not it's not gonna work to get over 90,000 in like 3 or 4 months. And so a lot of those were aimed at the kind of signature collection, but then there were some also aimed at like the language of the ballot initiative. And so I believe one of the laws was like the ballot title has to be under 500 words, and like a readability requirement has to be like an 8th grade reading level. Like things that are like completely not necessary, especially when you think about the legislature and the ability of the legislators to pass legislation. It's like these restrictions are not on them, so why should they be on the people? I don't know if that answered your question, but that was a lot.
No, it definitely did answer my question because when we talk about direct democracy, and you mentioned the requirements for language on it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's in theory, it sounds like a great idea, making it on an 8th grade reading level for a ballot title, but or initiative. But when you start thinking about some of the language that is not on an 8th grade level. It might be on a high school level, and saying that you can't use that language. There aren't a lot of options for what other language, what other types of language, what other words you can use, rather. So it gives you one on the impression that it may be something good, but at the end of the day, if you know this work and you're dealing with policy, sometimes you don't have any other options but to use certain words that are above an 8th grade reading level. And
Right.
so,
And we also have to remember that these are like laws. You know what I mean? It's like there's some legal language that's like unavoidable.
yeah,
Like I know like fundamental right or like substantially sufficient. Like, things like that. It's like those are words that kind of you have to use for it to have the same effect that you're trying to have.
yeah,
And so that's kind of hard too.
yeah, definitely. And with the attacks on voting rights, we saw Act 602 go into law, basically establishing the readability standard that you're talking about that's going to potentially be blocking some citizen-led initiatives. Also, the barriers to direct democracy with Act 218, 274, and 241. I believe this year we saw 13 bills, which I believe is a record, passed that restrict the constitutional power of the people. And so I think it's very important that we talk about this, because if there is a lawsuit now to protect AR rights, and I know 4AR People is a part of that. Can you just talk a little bit about why 4AR People decided to become a part of that lawsuit and support that along with other coalition partners?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people maybe don't know this, or like a lot of people do, but like 4AR People was signed on to one of the biggest ballot initiatives, that being the Arkansas Abortion Amendment. And we got the signatures, there was a long legal battle with that, and it just didn't make it to the ballot because in my opinion, our local government kind of worked against us. And so I think that is one of the main reasons that we are so big on direct democracy now and willing to like do this, is because we saw firsthand how the voice of the people was messed with, and not over 101,000 people were disenfranchised with the Arkansas Abortion Amendment. And then even the marijuana amendment made it to the ballot, and then those votes didn't count, So it's like you're double disenfranchising people. You're disenfranchising the people that signed it and disenfranchising the people that voted for it. And so it's like, I think us at 4AR People believe that the power of the people matter. I mean, our state motto is Regnant Populace, the people rule. And so that's like one of the main reasons that we're trying to protect this process, because it is our right as the people of Arkansas to be able to put things on the ballot and get a vote on it by the people of Arkansas, and the legislature, they shouldn't exercise their power in that way. I think that's ridiculous. And so yes, we are signed on to protect our AR rights along with 5 other great organizations. And I'm excited to see what happens, because there's some great people working on it. So
Definitely. Another bill that you guys are very active on was the HB 1180, the Baby Olivia Act, which was an act that would require public school students, a bill that would require public school students show, like in a human development video, meet baby Olivia. and it was intended for students beginning in the 5th grade year. Can you just talk about that bill and I guess the advocacy against that bill on y'all's behalf?
Yes. So the Meet Baby Olivia Act, HB 1180, was an effort by Mary Bentley, and I'm laughing because it failed in committee like 3 times. That's why I'm laughing. But it was to show this video called Meet Baby Olivia. It's this like animated ultrasound video that is inaccurate and also it's produced by this organization called Live Action, which is very, and like they're made to push pro-life education is what they call, and they're very like anti-abortion and anti-reproductive rights and stuff. And so our main thing with this and our main messaging with this act specifically is that the video is inaccurate. Inaccurate, and we saw a bunch of medical professionals show up and speak against it and speak to those inaccuracies, right? And so it's like, it's not something we're making up. It is inaccurate. These medical professionals who work in this field every day are saying that. And so our main messaging was that, and the fact that like, if they did not listen to those medical professionals, then they're just doing what they want. You know what I mean? They're not medical professionals. It wouldn't make sense for them not to listen. And so that was a really big deal, having all those medical professionals show up to speak against this. It's also like, on another hand, it's also weird to kind of show that video, but not show, like, not have any sort of comprehensive sex education. And so it's like, what's it really trying to do? Because, you know, it's trying to push a narrative that is not the full truth. And so we're super happy that that one failed. It's just so unnecessary. And like the state of Arkansas is like one of the highest in maternal mortality and things like that. It seems weird to show this video and not actually give the full story. And so I think the big thing was having those medical professionals show up and speak against this was really good.
Yeah, and it's good when, you know what I'm saying, people who are the experts in the field can actually, you know what I'm saying, reach the legislators and get them to understand that, like, you know, when you have things that are like irrational and not logical, that you should be listening to the experts. Like you mentioned, it was just a lot of concerns about the age appropriateness of it, the medical accuracy of it, and just the reliance on this video from an anti-abortion group. And so, like you mentioned, failed 3 times in committee because it never got the support that it was needed for. And so it's important that even when the experts do speak sometimes, it's important that we as, you know, Arkansans just speak when we have an opportunity to do that too as well, because a lot of times we can sway our legislators that way too as well. So,
and I know a lot of people took issue with the fact that it was a specific video and not just like a general, like, must show a developmental video, which I believe a similar bill with that passed later. But I think it says a lot that it was that one specific video and not like a bunch of different videos, or like the school gets to choose the video or whatever. So I think that says a lot about it too.
definitely does. And I'm somebody that if you know me, then a lot of people know that I believe in the youth feeling empowered and becoming advocates for their community, be involved in the civic engagement and the voting process when they become of age. But one of the bills that was pretty controversial this go around was the Arkansas Access Act, SB 246 and HB 1512. And it's now Act 340. It basically was like a package of bills concerning higher education, but also high school students and non-traditional students as well. Can you talk about the Arkansas Access Act? I know there were a lot of elements around DEI, but also silencing students' voices was a major part of it as well. So can you talk about Arkansas Access Act?
Yes. So Arkansas Access, like you said, it was the higher education plan. So we saw the Learns Act, so we're a little iffy about what's coming next. But I think the main controversy was that anti-DEI and the infringing on the free speech of students. Mainly like prohibiting protests and not allowing excused absences to like come speak against or for test or for legislation, which a lot of students did show up. A lot of high school students specifically did show up and speak against this. And then on the floor, they amended it to make it so high school students could show up and testify against or for legislation. Thanks to like, I believe it was, or I don't know which representative it was, but she was like, why shouldn't they be able to speak here? It's like, they should be able to come. And so I appreciate her for that. But yeah, that was kind of the main thing. It's like, students do still have freedom of speech, especially if you go to a public university or public high school. And the anti-DEI stuff, it's like being able to fire tenured professors because of how they teach a subject is wild. I think we can all agree that that's insane. And so those were kind of the main controversies with it. It goes to that point where it's like our governor is very anti-indoctrination, except when it comes to her type of indoctrination. You know what I mean? It's like students should be able to learn in an environment that is like safe and comfortable and accurate, like historically accurate. And it's, they would say teaching Black history is DEI, and I think that is ridiculous. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't know about yours.
I mean, yeah, as far as the anti-DEI language in the bill, I feel like some of it is so broad when they talk about DEI and affirmative action, things like that. You're right. Like somebody who's teaching Black history could definitely feel threatened by this bill now an act. I know someone who on a college level teaches a class about the history of the Black athlete in college. And so it's a class so people can understand like the whole historical context of like what Black athletes look like in PWIs at one point, all the way up until now, talking about how you should go about looking at your NIL deal as a Black athlete. And so like, I think things like that are specifically catered to a certain demographic of the student body, definitely they could feel threatened by that. And then also, with the other bill from Dan Sullivan passing about as far as like not using DEI or affirmative action for admissions, it's doubling down on, saying a certain group of people and making it more difficult for them to be able to adapt to like college life as well too. So I think that there was a lot with that going on. And then honestly, I do feel like the access bill was definitely targeting Little Rock Central High students who one, they filed their own lawsuit to keep the Black History course at Central High. And then they've been very involved in speaking at the Capitol during the legislative session of the last few sessions, as well as protests and walkouts going on over at the school. And so I think that's one of the things that I've enjoyed the most about the session is seeing that their activism, as well as other students around in the Pulaski County School District and Little Rock School District as well too. Just the way that they pay attention to these bills and when it directly impacts them not being afraid to speak, and the frustration that legislators have sometimes with seeing them showing up and kind of handing it to them. So, the access bill, was one of those ones where it definitely stood out to me because of the attacks on freedom of speech as well too. So yeah.
Yes. And it's like, we have a governor who likes to threaten funding to these public schools. Yeah. And it's just, that's so wrong. And that's one of those things we should be holding her accountable for. That's insane. You can't be doing that.
Yeah. And then another bill, I forget the bill number, but another bill that changes the elections for school board here in Arkansas, having to choose between, if your school is not over 20,000 in enrollment, then your board members go down to, I believe, either 7 or 5. And so Little Rock School District was impacted by that because this was the first year in a long time that they got under 20,000 students after a school district in Northwest Arkansas boasted and bragged about having 21,000. So that bill kind of, they snuck that in there, and now that's reshaping and rezoning the school district right ahead of the 2030 census. So it's definitely gonna have an impact on on Central Arkansas. I'll say that for sure.
Absolutely.
In the on the environment level, you know what I'm saying, environmental justice, Senate Bill 290 was filed regarding the watershed moratoriums for the Buffalo River. Moratorium is another one of those words that I think a lot of people they see and like, okay, I don't know what that is, so I might not pay attention to it. But can you just talk about the importance of this particular bill that's talking about the Buffalo River and what it was seeking to do as far as like the farming and watersheds around the Buffalo National River?
Yes. So this one definitely had more of an environmental impact than I think anything else. Hog farming, hog farming has been like popular around the Buffalo River specifically, and it influences the like water quality in a way that is awful. And Arkansas is like the natural state. We should protect all of our bodies of water, all of our watersheds. And so I think that was like in response to kind of the complaints about hog farming in the Buffalo River, and that it's just a water quality thing as far as I understand, but it was bad nonetheless. It's like, yeah, there should not be hog farming in places where people have water and also are like camping and everything. It's like the Buffalo River is like it's a big thing here in the state of Arkansas. People use the Buffalo. Yes, don't hog farm there. I don't know why that's like controversial also, but I don't know your take on it. I don't know if that made any sense also.
Nah, I mean, first off, it's a national park. And so being able to dump hog waste in a national park river is, to me, counter to what the purpose of a national park is supposed to be about. It's supposed to attract tourism. It's supposed to be a place that should be eco-friendly and doing everything they can to protect the park because of like I say, the tourism that it brings, the natural beauty. We're in the natural state, and the quality of the water is like, you want to preserve those type of places. And so I'm always kind of baffled too by the controversy around it. I know hog farming is important to the state of Arkansas, but like I say, also protecting the environment and making sure that our national parks are not, just mistreated in general. And you know what I'm saying? And so like, I'm always, since I've been at the panel, this topic about the Buffalo River has come up several different times. But I just don't understand. I mean, it must be something that these hog farmers are just really adamant about because it continues to come up. But when we talk about the moratorium and the conservation efforts, that we need to be ensuring continued protection all the time for the Buffalo River and all of our rivers. I just think about growing up as a kid, certain places you didn't want to necessarily go fishing or something like that because you just had concerns about the things that they dumped in the river or they dumped in the lake. And so, it's kind of silly that we have to, go through this every few years about protecting the rivers, but apparently there must be some big money behind it because, it always becomes a conversation. It always becomes a fight. It's never just an easy conversation to just say, hey, can we just protect that river and not dump hog waste in it?
Right.
but it's interesting once again, and I know the amended version of it passed, and it's now Act 921, and it's going to maintain the current moratorium, and also I guess there'll be a review on the concentrated animal feeding operations moving forward with the future moratorium. So for right now, I think it's still safe, but they basically are, it's not a permanent thing, I'll just say that. So, well, I know we talked about a lot of bills that we played defense on. So I do want to bring up some of the good, because a lot of times people are just like, man, did anything good happen? Yeah, there was some great things that happened, and I just want to, see some just some ones I thought were just key takeaways. First off, I want to mention, man, so many bills. SB 59, I believe, that became an act. That was, if I got the bill number wrong, my apologies, but that was the bill I'm referring to that gave free breakfast for all public high school students. And so just want to get your thoughts on why you feel that was a good thing that happened. And of course, I'm gonna share some too, so.
Yes. Well, I think Arkansas has a major food insecurity problem. Major. And I think this was such a big deal to kind of combat that, giving every student in public schools free breakfast. I know a lot of people complained that it wasn't lunch too. And I think that will be next. But I think for now, this is a really good way to fight the food insecurity problem in the state of Arkansas. It was a bipartisan effort. It was incredible. And I'm so happy that this happened.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure if this is correct or not, but I think Arkansas is the first state in the South to provide free breakfast for all students, all public school students, one free breakfast. So definitely, like you mentioned, food apartheid, food insecurity is definitely major. The studies show, and is no surprise, that kids learn better when they're not hungry.
Exactly.
I think adults know that too, because in our work environments, when people start getting hungry, it could be some tension, there could be a little laziness at work. And so, that's a great thing to do for all the public school students. And then it's starting in the 2025-26 school year as well too. So to be a leader in that in the South, that was definitely great. And definitely want to hype that up as much as possible as well too. So, and I got a couple of other ones that I want to bring up. Also, we talked about addressing child hunger with the breakfast bill, but there was also a bill that I wanted to bring up that kind of had some traction, but it didn't make it across the finish line, but they had gained more traction than it ever did. It was the child wage theft bill. This bill was one of our Citizens First Congress priorities with the wage theft campaign. And it actually was led by Greg Leding, who, well, this will be his last term as a senator. He's term limited, but it was to ensure that students would get basically a paycheck with everything that provides them everything as far as like their records on their work and their pay, taxes taken out, all of that. It seems like it was simple enough to pass, but it didn't pass. But like I said, they've been fighting for protecting wage theft for years, with children in particular. And I know last legislative session, they actually kind of got rid of the child work permit standards during the legislative session. So this was just a good bill that had some good traction, but it, like I say, it only passed one committee. It didn't make it out the next committee. But in your opinion, why would that be something that we should continue to fight for, ensuring that each child gets a paycheck?
Well, I think that child work, especially like maybe like high schoolers, is maybe a little bit exploited. It's like you can pay like children like when I was in high school, I got paid like $7.25 for my first job or whatever, which is not a lot. But the fact that like children kind of don't need like the money, I think making sure that children get all their money is important for the work that they do. I just think that's like human. It's treating children like human is important. That's kind of like, to me, that should not be controversial. So I'm shocked it did not make it past the finish line. But yeah, I think treating child workers, well, also child work is kind of controversial in the state of Arkansas too, because of the lack of, or the limitations on it taken off by the governor a little bit. So I think child work is controversial in the state of Arkansas. Maybe that's why it didn't, but to me, that's not controversial at all.
No, it isn't. And so we want to make sure that we continue to support that moving forward, because I feel like everybody should have an accurate pay stub and get to see the amount of hours that they work and what they're getting paid, because it can be exploited, especially not only with youth. When we start talking about English as second language workers, they need to be able to see what's happening with their hourly wages, and just having transparency. This bill right here was a bill that wasn't good, but it was defeated. So this is good. So we want to bring this up too. HB 1668. This bill would have enabled civil lawsuits against anyone who supported or assisted with transgender youth in accessing gender affirming care. I think it was a significant victory, because it represents basically the protection of all people, LGBTQ, transgender. And so what are your thoughts on that?
This is actually probably one of my favorite losses, right?
Yeah.
Besides, the prison, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But okay, this was another one of Mary Bentley's things, I believe.
Yeah.
And I was watching the committee for this, and the attorney general showed up and said, actually, this is unconstitutional. What are you doing? We cannot defend this in court. And I think a lot of these maybe conservative like representatives or senators kind of feel this pressure to put things like this forward by their bases, because this is like something that, one, is completely unnecessary, two, just divisive, and I think the big problem with this bill specifically is that it kind of aimed and took like targeted the actions of other people as it related to someone's transition. So the ability of other people to affirm someone's gender identity, whether that's through a haircut or a parent just calling them by their preferred pronouns or whatever. I think that is like ridiculous, and I'm so glad it didn't go through. But I think the main reason it didn't go through was because the Attorney General's office was like, we cannot defend this in court. And so I think that goes to show it's like these legislators are just as maybe clueless as us to the law, because that is unconstitutional. It's like a freedom of expression, freedom of speech thing. You can't do that, and so I think that I'm super happy that this didn't go through. One of my favorite losses, just because it was embarrassing, and yeah, I'm glad that this didn't work.
Yeah, definitely, and you're right. A lot of times, it ain't no secret. These legislators have no clue about the validity of any of these bills that they sponsor, if it'll even work, if it's going to be challenged in court, if it's illegal, all of that. And so it's important that we stay on them. And a lot of times, even when we have good bills that they should be supporting, we reaching out to them and breaking it down to them, just like we would do on our webinars, on our video logs, all of that stuff. Yeah, what I'm saying, a lot of times they really don't understand it. And so it's important that we stay on them, because they will file things that make no sense. I'm gonna bring up another bill. And another harmful bill that didn't pass, but still want to give it a shout out. And then we can jump into whatever bills that you want to mention that I might have left off. HB 1422. This was to me, a direct attack on the immigrant community here in Arkansas. This would have been a bill that would require all non-citizens, driver's license and state IDs to look different than anyone else's. And I don't understand the full purpose of it, but I just know that this bill was pretty much it was a harmful notion. And the suggestion that immigrants are being illegally involved in elections, and this is one reason why too. It's not true. I think over the last 25 years, there have been maybe 3 different cases of voter fraud, and 2 of them were by elected officials. So nobody's getting involved in elections pretty much, and tampering or doing any type of scamming to vote. But just want to hear your thoughts on why that's good that it would be defeated.
Well, I think this is one of those situations where kind of what's happening nationally reflects like what's happening locally, or vice versa. I think that a lot of these legislators are watching what's happening and the rhetoric that maybe the president is saying about specific groups of people, and so they feel the need to like play into that. I think the anti-trans bills were just like that. I think the anti-affirmative action stuff was just like that. It's like they're hearing Donald Trump say all these things about immigrants and DEI and all this stuff, and so they feel like they have to do something when really that's not a problem. Like it's not a thing that's happening, you know what I mean? And like it's in their head. Like you said, like undocumented immigrants are not shaping elections here in the state of Arkansas. That's something that's not happening. But because people nationally are hating on immigrants and hating on all these people for all these various reasons, all of a sudden it's like an issue in Arkansas when like that's not the case at all. And I think that's one of those things where people are kind of playing to their bases. Their bases are mad about anything President Trump says, and then now all of a sudden they have to be mad about it too when it's not a problem. I think that's one of those things of like legislating a non-issue, and I think it's unnecessary and wrong. So
Definitely, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times when a lot of legislators would speak, they would make references to the president about this is the reason why I want to do this, and we're just following the leader of the country and yada yada yada. But they know that a lot of it was a lot of harmful intentions with a lot of the things that are being done, and you can't just you can't use it to your advantage without knowing like the intended consequences when you know it's something that's targeting certain communities. The last bill I'm going to bring up, some people think it's good, some people think it's a bad thing, but we kind of stayed on the neutral position on this because I think there's good and bad in this bill. It's the bill no sale bill in all the schools. And this was the bill that basically says that they're banning the use of smartphones and personal electronic devices in all public schools in Arkansas. Got to mention this too. A lot of these bills that we're passing that impact our students, they're only passing these bills, or I mean, they're only filing these bills and applying it to public schools. It's not applied to private schools, even though they're getting some of our tax dollars now. But it basically was banning cell phone use and electronic devices from being used starting in the 2025-26 school year. Some people think it's all about sales, but it's not just about cell phones. It's all types of devices, tablets, smartwatches, headphones, Bluetooth devices, game consoles, laptops. You cannot have these unless you have an exemption for health reasons, your IEPs, extracurricular activities, or emergencies. And this was done because from my understanding, they said this was going to improve mental health in schools. But like I said, there's arguments on both sides of that. How do you feel about that bill right there?
Yeah, so I believe 4AR people also kind of stay neutral, but I see both sides. I imagine this is something that the teachers might want in relation to like distractions in class.
Yeah,
I could see that being a thing, but I could also see why parents would be upset because like we live in a time where it's not the most safe, and so like if things happen at the school, how are they getting in touch with their kids? Like I kind of see both sides of that. I guess I just want to see how, like, what happens with it, like how it works. Because if there are issues, then we can maybe do something about those issues. But I do see both sides. I am neutral on it. I'm neutral.
well, I'll say this, Ray. I'll add this to the conversation. I feel like the brunt of this in this first year, because it's in the trial, it's been this trial run this first year. Every district has to create their own policy, so there's no statewide policy. Every school district will be responsible for their own plan on how they will ban cell phone use and electronic device use. But I can see an issue with security being overwhelmed at these schools, in particular in middle school and high school. I think our elementary students will probably fall in line a little bit easier, but our middle school and high school students, where we got teenagers that are addicted to their phones or just really need their phones, and parents really want to require to contact them and communicate with them throughout the day, that's going to fall on the security a lot of times because the teachers will have an issue and the first thing they'll do is contact security. So I think it's going to be a real interesting year for our security faculty members around the campuses with it being his first year. So yeah. So are there any bills that we didn't touch that was like really on your radar that we should discuss before we end this webinar that you want to mention?
Yeah, I'll mention a couple.
Okay.
There were a lot of there were some attacks on libraries, public libraries,
Yes.
that we covered a little bit. I know Dan Sullivan pushed or tried to push a bill forward that would have kind of abolished the library board and PBS and put it in the hands of the Arkansas Department of Education. And I believe that one failed, but then there was another bill like last minute that would allow or like it would fire everyone that was currently on the library board and allow the governor to appoint a whole new board. And obviously that's not good because the library board and our public libraries are like constantly under attack, like all the time. And for having books that people don't agree with or things like that. And a lot of those books, if you notice, are like they have themes of race or they have themes of sexuality, gender identity, right? And so that kind of plays into that whole indoctrination thing. And so if we're attacking libraries for this and then allowing the governor to appoint a whole new library board, it's like our libraries are in trouble.
Yeah.
And so that's something we need to be on the lookout for.
Most definitely, most definitely. Yeah. I don't want to see PBS being controlled by the Arkansas Department of Education. You know what I'm saying? We already talked about anti-DEI efforts. A lot of times PBS has a lot of great information pertaining to Black history. We had PBS just aired a whole new series of Eyes on the Prize that was telling the story of Black history from several different movements being built and cultural work that was done over the last 30 years that a lot of people were unfamiliar with. Some of it pertained to the LGBTQ community, to the Black Lives Matter community. It was several different pieces in an installment, AIDS awareness, all of these things. And so Million Man March was covered in this too as well. And so I don't, I definitely don't want to see PBS being controlled by the Department of Education, as well as our libraries. We have to do everything we can to protect our libraries. I talk about it a lot with people about how the libraries are more than just a place to go check out books. That is the after school care program for some students. When they leave school, they hang out there. That is the place where you can really tap into your passions and learn more about history or just life. So many great authors that you get exposed to just by being there. It's free to use. So, you know, we want to do everything we can to protect our libraries. We want to make sure librarians run libraries and not politicians, because yeah, you know, that would make it, yeah, that wouldn't be a good look. So I'll just put it like that. But it's been a great conversation. First time chatting with you. Before we tip on out, any announcements or anything you need to tell people about how they can follow you and follow more of the work that you're doing with 4AR people?
Yes, so 4AR People is back to those weekly YouTube videos after the legislative session, so definitely check us out on YouTube at 4AR People. And then we're like on every platform, so we're on TikTok, we're on Twitter, we're on Blue Sky, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Almost all of those are 4AR People. I just at 4AR People, and then on Twitter it's at 4AR People 1. And so make sure you check us out. We still are updating everybody about what's happening in Arkansas and really focusing on that education and good governance aspect. So if you liked what you heard, check us out. I'm pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, y'all tap in and follow them on all the platforms. And another big shout out to you too. I know when I reached out to you, you didn't know who I was, or we never had a conversation, but you weren't hesitant at all about joining on the webinar and having this great conversation with me. So once again, thanks for just being open to having a conversation and just providing all the wealth of knowledge that you have on this subject today. All right.
Thank you all for having me, and thanks to the Public Policy Panel for all y'all do.
All right. Hey, until next time, everybody, have a safe and fun Memorial Day weekend. Peace.